Hello, my name is Makeda and you're watching a CNBC Africa special. April 26th is recognized as World Intellectual Property Day and is designed to raise awareness about how IP rights can encourage innovation and creativity and contribute to development. This year's World IP Day theme is Innovate for a Green Future and takes into account the processes that are necessary in order for us to build a sustainable outlook for generations to come. In this CNBC Africa special, I have two guests who will be representing various aspects of the ecosystem to give their insights on the importance of understanding and respecting this essential part of forging our future. From the Rwanda Development Board, I have Registrar General Richard Kayibanda, and from the Rwanda Environment Management Authority, we have Deputy Director General Faustin Munyazikwiye on the line. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel today, to both of you. You know, before we get into the importance of raising awareness of intellectual property rights in general, Richard, could you just explain to us the connection between intellectual property rights and the theme for this year, Innovating for a Green Future?
Thank you very much, Makeda. To explain the connection between the intellectual property and the theme for this year to celebrate the IP Day, that is Innovate for a Green Future, we need to start by reminding ourselves what intellectual property is and what intellectual property rights are. So briefly, intellectual property refers to creations of mind for which exclusive rights are recognized. And these creations of mind include inventions, literary and artistic works, symbols, and names that are used in commerce. While intellectual property rights are legally recognized rights that protect these creations. So intellectual property rights are there to protect these creations in a way that reward inventors or innovators for the work that they do to come up with a new invention. Let's say someone is investing time, energy, and money in coming up with a device that would help to reduce reliance on the fossil fuel that most countries rely on. So this person might end up with something that is new, a product or a process that is new, which, if not protected, they would not be able to recoup the investment made in it, and the intellectual property is there to ensure that if someone has invested time, money, and energy in coming up with a new product or a new process, then they get protection which is expressed in terms of exclusive rights to exploit this innovation or invention, and thereby allowing the inventor or innovator to recoup and the money, that the investment that has been made, and be able to continue investing in new inventions or technologies. So if we are to deal with the effects of climate change, for instance, we need to have the IP system, the intellectual property system, that supports these innovations, and which innovations the community and the world could benefit from.
Faustin, once someone has come up with a green solution, could you explain to us the process on behalf of REMA, the process of getting that idea approved?
Thank you very much. Before maybe I describe the process of getting the idea approved, I want first of all to describe which type of policies and regulations we have in the country which will enable all individuals from the country or from abroad who can have the green ideas and innovations. So we, at national level, to describe the policies and regulations you have, I can start with the environmental policy, which is well elaborated and placing the green growth at the center of its development. We have a policy statement on promotion of green economy that is resource efficient, low carbon, and climate resilient. I'm starting with the policy science is one of the ingredients which are helping an idea or an innovation to be nurtured and be adopted at country level. So in this policy action on promotion of green economy, we have the keyword on resource efficient and low carbon and climate resilient. So once a person has an idea which is helping the country in terms of resource efficiency, when we are using water, when we are using electricity, when we are using other resources, and he comes with an idea which has an added value to reduce resources we are using, but at the same time reducing emissions we are having, it is welcomed and it can get as well various incubation at the Climate Innovation and Cleaner Production Center, which was developed by the government of Rwanda to come and facilitate those ideas to be incubated and developed well. So apart from this, we have also a policy on promotion of green technology and procurement. So we can't talk about promoting green technology without touching on procurement, whether in private sector, whether in government institutions. When we are talking about green procurement, we are actually putting in place measures to promote whoever will come with an idea or a technology which will help us to promote environmental sustainability. When we are talking about environmental sustainability, it is simply to help us to meet the needs of the present and also without compromising the needs of the future. So, in actual sense, I wanted to take you through that policy, which is giving the guideline, and indeed you have the environmental law, which are also talking about various principles of governing environmental conservation. Through those principles, we observe that we have also the principle of sustainability, which are actually promoting those ideas and innovations which are promoting green growth.
Richard, if someone has an idea, when an innovator comes up with something that meets all of the standards in the policies, what does he need to have in order to even be able to be eligible to have the right to apply for a patent or for a copyright or trademark? How does he make sure that he has everything he needs to be eligible?
Back to details about some of the intellectual property rights that you mentioned. If I start with the patent, this is a title that is recognized to someone who has come up with an invention. And if we link it with this particular theme, an invention that is eco-friendly, an invention that is in the area of green technology. So to be entitled to protection or registration in the intellectual property office, this invention has to be new. It should not be something that is already in existence, and it has to be useful. That is, it has to be able to solve a practical or technical problem that the society is facing. And it has also to be not obvious for a person who is an expert in the area. It has to be something that is not obvious. And once those three criteria are complied with, then someone who has come up with an invention is eligible to a patent. This is a process that takes some time because once the application is filed, requirements can be found, but basically the description of the innovation, what is it about, and how it works. And once the application is submitted, it goes through the process of examination. And if those requirements are met, then a patent is granted, and then the person can move to the next step, which is exploitation of the patent. You also mentioned trademarks. I will link this with what Foster was saying when he alluded to procurement policy that requires, if I got him properly, that when entities are procuring, they also make sure that they are procuring as much as possible goods or products and services that are environment friendly. So for trademarks, this is a logo, a word, a phrase, or a slogan that helps to identify the goods or the products of a given enterprise from those of another. So if you have consumers who are environment friendly, then they will be able to purchase or acquire goods that they consider that they are meeting the environment protection requirements. So for this trademark or brand to be able to distinguish these goods that meet these requirements from others, it has to be protected. For its protection, the laws and the regulations requires that it has to be new. It has not to be descriptive or deceptive. And once those criteria are met, then an exclusive right to use such a brand, such a trademark is granted. And then it helps consumers to identify goods that are environment friendly from those which might not be environment friendly. So these are some of the intellectual property rights that I have looked at, but a number of other intellectual property rights can also be used to contribute to the environment protection. But in brief, they can only achieve that purpose if they are protected by the law, and for the law to protect them, they have to meet the set requirements.
Right. Faustin, what has been your experience with innovators, let's say in the past 5 years? We have seen more of a focus on sustainability and the importance of it here in the region and on the continent. Have you seen an increase in proposals for consideration?
Yeah, thank you very much. Our experience in the green innovation pertains to the regulations we are putting in place. To give you an example, when we banned the plastic bags in the country for the first time in 2008, everyone was panicking. What are we going to use in the packaging? But after some few months, some of the innovators came up with various either recyclable or materials or other biodegradable materials in the country. Others established the plant for recycling. So for us, it was a journey which we took together because from the government side we had to put in place some incentives in the law. For instance, giving them taxi holidays, things like that, and other motivation. But on the side of the beneficiaries also, they were somehow worried about their products, how they are going to get the packaging. But at the end of the day, after a lot of efforts in the awareness, we come together and we got a solution. But at the same time, those innovators and inventors also benefited. That is one of the examples. But we can name other examples when it comes, that is in the waste management. But when we go to other areas like agriculture, we have various innovators. When it comes for climate change adaptation or building resilience of our agriculture sector, there are some innovators who came with various innovation of remote controlling the irrigation using their cell phones. All of those are innovations which pertain to the climate resilience, but at the same time promoting the environmental sustainability in the country. So the experience we had in the first place, there is a challenge to solve, and the second place, when an innovator or someone bring a new idea or change the existing process or practice or a system to bring that sustainability on board is vital for everyone.
Right, right. Richard, you know, as the registrar there, what challenges have you seen people who are trying to get their IP protected facing? You know, we've seen in other parts of the world, in Europe or in America, that it takes quite long to get a patent. We imagine that it doesn't take quite as long here in Rwanda, but what are the main challenges do these innovators face?
Thank you very much. Innovators have a number of challenges, including that one you mentioned, which is a challenge, somehow a challenge worldwide, but it has a justification because if we refer to the other requirements that I mentioned earlier, if you have to assess whether an innovation is new, then you need to look into the existing body of knowledge in the entire world, and some innovations have to are complex, and it requires enough time to assess to be able to ascertain whether they meet the requirements. That is, if they are new, if they are not obvious, and if they are useful. So that is a challenge worldwide. But if I come to the specific case of Rwanda, we sometimes we rely on regional organizations such as the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization to build on their expertise and resources to expedite this exercise. And for other challenges that we noticed or we notice on a daily basis, there is lack of knowledge about the intellectual property laws and the rules, where you will find that someone has come up with a new product or a new process, but they don't know that it has to be registered for them to benefit from these exclusive rights that I have mentioned. And you find other people ending up getting free ride on their inventions, and then they are not able to recap the investment that they have made, and then this discourages them to engage into future inventions or innovations. But in respect to patents also, we have noticed a challenge of lack of uh, expertise. Drafting a patent document requires some experts to work on these documents, to go into details, to draft a document that would be submitted to the intellectual property office and is acceptable. So that is a challenge that we've noticed of lack of expertise in drafting the patent documents. And as a measure to address this issue, we are working closely with the intellectual property organizations, mainly World Intellectual Property Organization and African Regional Intellectual Property Organization, so that they can provide trainings. And we've been training people, scientists and lawyers, so as to have a pool of experts where innovators who have ideas, who have new products, but they don't know how to go into the intricacies of drafting the patent documents, can resort to and be able to file successfully for protection of their intellectual property assets. So those are some of the major challenges that we encounter, and to a certain extent, we also have noticed the challenges of people counterfeiting others' inventions or
Sure, right.
intellectual property rights. And again, this needs collective efforts to. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes, I was saying
Richard, I don't mean to cut you off, but there is another big challenge that is facing everyone right now, which is the lockdowns as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. With the uncertainty surrounding whether or not or when we will be able to get out and do business the way that we used to do, everyone is faced with this possibility of having to live with this new normal. Luckily, there are a lot of government services that are digitized, but how has the lockdown affected ways that innovators are going about getting these rights, exercising these rights, and protecting their IP?
Okay, yeah, that is a challenge indeed. And basically, if innovators had to work into workshops to develop their prototypes, etc., then definitely this lockdown to contain the coronavirus 19 is affecting them. But when it comes to those who have finalized inventions, for sure there are challenges of filing them, but in most instances, services that are offered to the general public, including innovators or applicants for IP protection. Some of the services are now digital, available online, and those that are not available online, institutions, public institutions are doing their best to ensure that as much as possible, business can continue by being flexible on the filing channels, etc. But I think also this challenge that we are facing is another opportunity for people with bright ideas to come up with solutions that can address challenges that we face.
Just before we have to wrap up, I would like to hear very briefly from Faustin about how REMA is accommodating innovators and trying to make sure that these operations are still happening during this time of lockdown.
First of all, to hear how we are accommodating innovators, we have been championing the program of raising awareness of all green initiatives in the country, whether new or existing, through giving the awards for good innovations. But on the other hand, we are also promoting them in different forums by doing the advocacy. But specifically, one of the challenges they used to have is to access the financing to support their activities. And the government of Rwanda, through the Ministry of Environment, established a fund for a green fund, which is a Fund for Environment and Climate Change, which actually set up a window for innovations, which can be accessed by all innovators and people have green ideas.
Thank you to both of our panelists. Today, on the occasion of World IP Day on April 26, we have been discussing the correlation between IP rights and the theme of innovating for a green future here in Rwanda. And from the Rwanda Development Board, we have Registrar General Richard Kayibanda, and from the Rwanda Environment Management Authority, we had been speaking to the Deputy Director General Faustin Munyazikwiye. Thank you so much once again for that, and hopefully we will see you again the next time. You've been watching a CNBC Africa special with me, Makeda Mahario. Have a great rest of your day.